And sorry, I have to record the conversation. I've just been noticed. Hi, Falguni, you're here. Thank you. I'm just going to make you co-host so that you can run a few things for me. And Falguni, whose name I mentioned, is an alumni of the drama school. And she is also acting as a journalist and writing these pieces in reported form. And you'll soon see all of these pieces in written form, 5 pages, reports of each talk on the website. But also the videos of these talks and past talks are all available to you. And I tend to share them to every set, but I think I'm going to read myself. So if you want to see these talks, just reach out to us and we will share them with you. Okay, so without further ado, Janice Poon is the senior lecturer in writing and dramaturgy at the Hong Kong Academy of Performing Arts. She is also has a very long title, but it's about academic. Janice, I want to hear the title.
Academic Project Officer.
Academic Project Officer.
So actually, it's a title for school collaboration. So basically, all this external collaboration falls on my shoulder.
Okay. Well, hi, welcome, collaborator over here.
Hi, Jonathan.
But so the idea has been to really explore with acting teachers, pedagogues, how do we teach and how do we train for the future? And during this time, post this time, what has this disruption given us in terms of awareness? And there have been some very interesting conversations that go from Felipe Cervera saying, let us embrace this whole world and the planetarity that this offers us, to Giovanni and who had a conversation with Amy saying, on the other side of the equation, there's a tension that we should address. Amy and I call it the elephant in the room. But this idea of what are we leaving behind when we step into this online and digital space? And what does that mean for the space that we held, which was shared, and communal space and a shared experience space, a co-inhabited space. And so there's that tension. And there's also another tension where many schools have to go on and are sort of, in a way, the teachers teaching are forced to move into this space and do the best they can with it. But at the other side, there are people and practitioners who are saying we're going to stop and take a break and see what we need to do next. And I think that we've had all of these voices in the room. But we've also had a lot of voices where the pandemic is the main thing that has been the point of disruption. But the first idea that there were multiple disruptions at play came up when we heard from Sita Mani from Columbia University, where they were talking about both the disruption of the pandemic and the disruption of George Floyd and Black Lives Matter and that movement. And also we seem to be talking to a lot of schools and organizations and people who are practicing, I would say, in Europe, the Americas. And I think the Asian context, the South African context became quite interesting. And that's why I reached out to Janice, because I heard her speak very interestingly at a conference a few months ago. We both went to Berlin on Zoom. And there is this question about what is happening where in environments where there have been multiple ongoing disruptions throughout. In Hong Kong, it is there's a political disruption that is happening right now. In South Africa, there's a disruption around gender and around race. But these disruptions have been there in the past as well, and they are here now. So this is why I asked Janice to come in and share her thoughts and her space and her story with us. So the way the format works is we'll have about 20 minutes of opening remarks, 15 to 20 minutes. We can all take notes and keep thinking about what responses this creates in us or what questions we have. And then I, of course, have a set of questions which are particularly around the idea of how do we train students to live in a world of multiple and ongoing disruptions, which I will be asking Janice. And then, of course, the next 20 minutes is 30 minutes is an open conversation. We will do a hard stop at 15 past the hour on my clock, which means 45 past the hour on all of your clocks, because India is the only country in the world to have a half-hour difference on the time zones. So without further ado, Janice, welcome. Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us today. Looking forward to hearing from you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me here. If in any moment that you can't hear me, please let me know, okay? Yeah, I didn't know that Jahan was there when I was speaking. I just spoke for a very short time in the last minute before the conference, and I was so urgent that I have to speak something, you know. But that was also a very urgent moment back in June in Hong Kong, a very critical time. So as I believe most of you will know, Hong Kong has been going through, I can't describe the disruption that we have been encountering since June last year. And so I'm not going to repeat that. And my students as well. And of course, teaching, learning has been, totally disrupted. And I still remember last year, I mean, in the second half of last year, I was so afraid every night to watch news. I was so afraid. I'm so afraid to watch newspaper. I was so afraid to receive phone calls in the middle of the night. I was so afraid that to see my students or familiar faces on the news. It's very, very disruptive moment for me, and for most of us Hong Kong people. And after that, half a year, and it comes to early like in January this year, and then the pandemic COVID-19 spread out. And our school started to close in early February. And all the, as most of you did, so we switched all the teaching online. So we didn't stop the classes, we moved online. And we have, continuous days after days of meetings with my colleagues, basically every night. To talk about how we are going to conduct the classes, how the acting teachers are dealing with it, playwriting, voice teachers, how we are going to deal with it, and then every night, and then after class, and then we get together, and then we talk about the experience and how we can improve it, So very, very intense period of teaching, I have to say. But for us, I mean, for the whole faculty, School of Drama is one of the schools in the academy. So the Hong Kong Academy for Performing Arts, there are 6 schools. So School of Drama is one of them. We have School of Dance, we have School of Music. Our school is a very small school. There are, including our dean, there are 13 faculties. So teaching faculty will be 12, and then including our dean. And there are around 100 bachelor students. And then about 25 to 30 MFA students, depends on student recruitment every year. So it's not a very big school. And so that's also a very good thing about running a small school. I mean, working together with colleagues, because there are only 13 of us, so it's easier for us to get together. So every time, like every night at around 10 or 10:30, we will have our faculty meeting. And then we talk until like 12, 1, sometimes 2, It's crazy, I know. But that's how we deal with the pandemic. And then early in the morning, and then we start school again. Online, I mean. And at that time, I have to say the students are very, in a very desperate situation. I mean, in terms of emotion, I remember in the conference that Jahan, have I pronounced your name? Jahan, was there. I speak like urgently that during that time, my students are basically losing hope. I have to say they're basically losing hope. Mainly because of, it's an accumulative process, since the movement, and then COVID-19, and then they can't go back to school, and they were all locked down in their home. And you have to know, the living space in Hong Kong is very, very tiny and crowded. And many of them live with like 6, 7, family members in a really tiny room. And I believe when you have online classes with your students, when they turn on their video, and you can immediately see what kind of environment they are living in. And of course, they don't have, not many of them have very good Wi-Fi, and they don't have very good computer devices. And these are for us, a very basic technology that supports our teaching. But for them, many of them are, they don't have the money, or they are not that well off to equip those teaching technology, or learning technology. And our school has support for them. So our school buy SIM cards for them, and some of the students, if they don't have like good computer, we lend out the school's iPad or laptop for them. And yeah, so that's how we deal with the pandemic in terms of teaching. And for me, one special thing about my role is because I have to direct a performance for them in the second semester, which is before June. So the performance originally was scheduled to be performed at the end of May. Yeah, but during the lockdown, the students keep texting me and asking me, do we still have the performance? Are we going to have that physical live performance that we learned for? Because in last year, I mean, in the first semester, they already lose the performance opportunity because of the social movement. And so if this semester they still don't have the performance opportunity, that means the whole year they would not have any performance anymore. And most of them are in the graduate class. So that's why I said they are like kind of losing hope in that moment about their future, about being a theater practitioner, about everything. And so for me as a teacher, theater became the only hope, or the only survival kit for me to give hope to the students. I have to say it this way. And that's really the only thing I can do. So I discussed with them, and then I said, okay, if we cannot do a live performance, let's do it online. Let's find a way to do the performance, whatever happened. If we cannot go back to school, we don't know when we can go back to school, then we do it online. We do a performance, we do a live performance. That's what you guys are learning for in the past 4 years. And so we started to rehearse. I have to say, not only the students were not learned to perform in front of the camera. And when I say camera, it's not a real camera. It's the this tiny little thing in front of a computer. Okay, not only they were not learning to perform this way, but I was not taught to teach, to direct any performance in front of this little hole there. Okay, but if that's the only way that I can give some hope to my students, if that's the only way that I can, get them together and we have a community, they can support each other, then I would do it. I would do whatever that I can give hope to them. And so we started rehearsal. And so the play that we did is called Pornography. It's a play written by a British playwright. His name is Simon Stephens, a very well-known playwright in the UK. And for them, so the play is about incidents, a real, actual incidents that happened in the UK. It's about a bombing incidents that happened in 2005. So if you Google it, and you can find it, it's on the 7th of July. Bombing incidents, something like that. Jonathan, you can correct me. And so the play was inspired by that true incidents. And for our students, when I do play analysis with them, and when we discuss about the characters in the play, they found a lot of resonance with their own lives, because the society in Hong Kong is also boiling. There are a lot of things that's not resolved, and a lot of things accumulating that so they found a lot of resonance with those characters in the play. And I think that's when they get connected with not only the characters but with human condition as well. Like when they read the play, they cried and they laugh, and it's very, very tiny little moments that became so precious in front of that little hole, that little camera. We never thought of we have to use it to communicate this way and to do a play. And so we started rehearsal, and of course they are not living in very good environment, very crowded, and but they still managed to do it. And so when I was rehearsing with them, I think some of the speakers before also said similar thing, like when you rehearse, and then so it's like I'm sitting here and then they were sitting there like you guys, and then so I give direction, come closer, yeah, closer, yeah, like this, yeah, show your eyes, so just something like that. So, and then there are dialogues in the play, and so we make use of the video platform that we use. So we choose Google Meet, which is a similar platform like Zoom, and one of the functions, and we investigate all the functions in that video conferencing platform, and we try to make use of the functions. And one of the functions that we found is that actually it's not only me, my students, they taught me a lot about technology, I have to say, during this process. And they always told me, Janice, I found something very interesting, you see, and then they will show me, and then I'll try to make use of those technology and the built-in function in that video conferencing platform. So one of the function that they discovered and is that just like Zoom, they capture your voice. So whoever is speaking, your face will pop up, right? Unless you pin that person. And so we use that function, like capturing voice function, to do editing, as if it's a film editing, that you can see. So I prepared a short clip that I can show you how we did it. So I will share screen now. Can you guys see?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is a scene. So this student, his younger brother, and this is a scene he was telling his fantasy about his sister, elder sister.
A little bit of volume, Janice.
Sorry?
A little bit of volume.
Lower the volume.
No, more.
This is the louder that I can play, sorry.
Okay, that's fine. Don't worry.
我直情感覺我血壓喺度飆升緊，我直頭聽到自己啲手。當我喺個床下睇到我慢慢爬翻嚟，我行去佢頭先打開過嗰個櫃桶嗰度，我抄嗰啲衫。我喺台面度拎咗一支暗粉。
So basically, by her singing, it automatically edited.
Yes.
Because she
Yes.
sang, we got to see her, is what you're saying.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. Because that's that is the imagination. You know, in that scene, then in that particular scene,
Yeah.
This young man, he's a teenager. He fantasized his sister and his teacher at school. And there are lots of fantasies in his mind that's spoken out through a monologue. And so in order to present or show how he fantasized it, and then I thought it's good to present the sister or the images of the teacher. But how I can do that, because everybody's device, I mean in the audience device is different. I can't guarantee what I saw in my computer is the same as what you saw. So
Yeah.
this is how we do the editing effect, so that you can see both the boy and the sister in his mind. And of course, we did some effect on the camera, so that you can realize that it's an imaginary image. And as you can see, that is the boy's home. Very chaotic. Very tiny. He don't have a room. He was in his living room when he rehearsed and performed. He just sorry. He put a cloth. You can see he put a cloth behind him whenever he rehearsed, so that it's just has a kind of like a separate privacy. But of course his family members hear everything, and and he's so brave to still perform, because in that scene, this boy, in the latter part of this scene, he became a kind of violent, and he was bullied in school, and then he was beaten up, and everything. But yeah, very violent, and then he still performed it, with his family member.
Right there.
That's crazy. And this is already a better version. There are some students. Of course, many of them don't have their own room. They share the living room, and many of them sleep in the living room or in the sofa bed. And sometimes you hear baby cry, and sometimes the dog will come, and and sometimes one student, she was rehearsing, sitting next to the toilet, and every time when I rehearse with her, and then you can see her father, going to the toilet and then flush, but she's still so concentrated in that tiny hole, camera in front of her, as if there's nothing happening next to her.
Wow.
I have to say, I mean, they have all my respect. I mean, I give this crazy idea that let's do it, but if they don't insist, if they don't, really focus and concentrate on what they're doing, and the scenes are very intense. I mean, if you know the play, very, very intense. And one of the scenes is a love affair between brothers and sisters. And so I have a very, very long discussion with the two young actors if cyber sex is possible, if they can have sex with the camera without showing it. Of course, I'm not going to ask them to show, kiss the camera. No, of course, I'm not asking them to do it. But you have to let the audience believe that you just have sex. How do you show the intimacy between the two of you? But this is a forbidden intimacy because you are brothers and sisters. How do you do this? And we have a very, very long conversation. And finally, I mean, not only I convinced them, but they tried for a long time, and they rehearsed on their own. And then they show me, and then I, give feedback, and, blah, blah, blah. And at the end, they managed to do it, by also manipulating camera and, and other things. And of course, they are using their acting skill that they learned in the past 4 years, of course. Stanislavski, Lecoq, whatever. I mean, they learn a lot of different styles or different tradition of performance. They learn Tai Chi as well. So that's a foundation that they have to learn since year one. And so they apply all these in whatever way they can, just in front of that tiny little camera on the computer. And towards the latter part of the rehearsal, and of course, that honestly, like some of the living environment is not very desirable for performance. You know, in rehearsal, they can still, you know, concentrate and try their best to focus, but they also want the audience to enjoy a good performance, and so they go to their friend's home. They, you know, if one of so some of their classmates have their own room, and then so they went on the performance night, they went to the students' home, the classmates' home, and then my assistants went there as well to set up lighting and then do the flipping. You know, when I say flipping, that's scene change. You know, we cannot do blackout. They just do this. Thank God.
The curtain.
I'm laughing because when they show me how they do it, they hide under the bed, and then they were like squeezing underneath the table, and it's very cute, I have to say. But actually, on the spot, it's very chaotic. But
So,
well, yeah. So we managed to do it.
mm.
And that's finished, and we did a consecutive like a 7 nights performance. So we did 1 scene per night because there are altogether 7 scenes in the play, and as online audience, you cannot concentrate for such a long time. Not only because technology, your eyes will get tired very easily, and also because as I said, the living, you know, family environment is not that easy for you to watch a 2.5-hour play. And so we divided that into episodes, just like when you watch Netflix. And so this is a 7-episode Netflix series. And yeah, so that performance was finished at the end of May. Very good response, and I'm glad that I did it because I can see they changed. At least I can see that they get better energy, and they are looking forward, you know, to go back to school. If there is a chance, then they can rehearse again. And in June, we can go back to school. Yeah, so we have a restricted access, but at least we can go back to school. And so we started rehearsal immediately again. And this time we jump from this total distancing rehearsal into an immersive theater. So I directed the same play in an immersive theater form. And then, so we continue the rehearsal for 1 month. And the same scene that you saw, and we adapted it when we do the physical rehearsal in the immersive theater form. And we adapted it into the following clips that I'm going to show you. This one. Can you see?
Yes.
Yeah. So we see this one first.
一支暗粉紅色嘅唇膏，我拎埋個鼻度聞咗下，跟住我打開咗個蓋，舐咗下，搽咗啲，我準備緊，我有好多方面我都準備緊。
Ready.
It's the video is frozen on mine. Is the video frozen on anyone else's or just on mine?
Yes. Can you?
Yeah,
can you?
Frozen. It's frozen.
frozen.
No.
Yeah, we can't see.
It's frozen as well.
Yeah. But we got some idea.
Let me do it this way. Okay, I share again.
Otherwise, what we can do is, yeah.
Yes, now I think it works now.
Okay.
Ready, Tracy.
我拎起咗一支唇膏，一支暗粉紅色嘅唇膏。跟住再行下一步，繼續啊！我靠佢個鼻聞咗。 開咗佢，我哋跟住查嗰啲準備緊，活動方面我都準備緊。
Okay. So
this the two clips that you just saw is the two sides of the cloth. So because the girl the sister is inside the cloth, and then so it was filmed in both sides because it's immersive theater. So that there will be audience in both sides of the cloth, so they will see it differently. And I have to say, this cloth and these images was inspired from the digital performance that we did online. Yeah.
That was apparent. That was very clear that, like, yeah. I was just going to ask you, is like, so you basically what you did online, then you found that being choiced aesthetically.
Yeah. So,
can I?
Yes.
So I've got a whole bunch of questions, but is there anything else you want to close up with before I start?
Yes, I would like to close up. Unfortunately, this immersive theater was not performed because our school was closed in early July. So actually we rehearsed the whole thing, but it was never performed. And we only did a recording of the run through. Yeah, so it was.
And the closure was because of the pandemic or because of the political situation?
No, because of the pandemic, because there was one student who was diagnosed, and then the academy closed immediately, and it was never opened again, not until now. Yeah. And so the rest of the semester from July to August, we all do it online again. Yeah. So the students, they cannot perform the immersive one, but they all said that it's lucky that they did the online version, because otherwise they will not have any performance opportunity, for the last year. And the last thing that I want to say, if this is the only way that I can continue to do theater, I will take whatever digital, physical space, virtual space into another stage. I'm seeing it this way. Whether this is a proscenium theater, whether this is a black box theater, that's a stage. The online platform is a stage for me. And I have to find the language in that particular stage, be it virtual or be it a physical theater. And that's what I want to say. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. So do feel free to put your videos on if you want to be a part of the conversation, if you have any questions. I am blown away by the story of your students. Much more, I mean, yes, I mean, obviously everyone is coming up with output of different kinds and theatrical choices. And I'm not going to talk too much about that because I think everyone has had different experiences of being digital and online. I even had a question. So how do you feel about the fact that, are you still doing theater, or is this new media performance? But let's put that on the side for now, because I think that conversation we're going to keep coming back to with many people. I think there's a much more poignant conversation to have here, where you talked about almost the survival kit, hope being the only survival kit of these students. What do you think they taught you apart from the technology and all of that? You spent most of your time teaching in the space of HKAPA, being safe in that space, creating that space. And there's this idea that they're somehow trying to still hold a space, even in those rehearsal rooms next to the toilet with their father behind the sheet, all of that. What has the learning been, and what do you think we should be thinking about when we've all got students now who are in different levels of stress? I mean, we are starting a digital semester at the Drama School Mumbai, and we're already trying to be very prescriptive about the conditions of their home learning space that they have to have or they have to work towards. And we are saying it's your problem, you have to do it. But I almost feel now, listening to you, that that's very unsympathetic of us to just be so dictatorial about it. But I just want to know, what have they taught you in being able to, your thoughts on what you've learned about the ability to hold space in such adverse situations?
I think the first thing, believe it or not, when you're using that little camera in front of you, trying to do theater, everybody became so concentrated because you don't know what's going on in that hole.
Wow.
You don't know what is capturing. You don't know if you have done enough. You don't know if you have been too exaggerated. You don't know what you have learned applies to that particular technology. And that's the only channel that you are communicating. That you know, when we are doing theater, when we are physically present in the same space, you smell, you feel the temperature, you touch everybody, you sweat, right? But in front of the camera, you cannot. And there's so many uncertainty that makes everybody became more concentrated. That's the experience that I don't know if, maybe something that I learned, and I didn't expect it. I don't know, I know nothing about camera, I have to say. So that's one thing. And then, so every time after the rehearsal, I send the video recording to them so that they understand what they did today. It appears like this in a video. So they learn it this way. Yeah. And then they adjust themselves. And then of course, I watched the video with them together. And then I told them, see, you do it like this, and then you have to modify so that the audience can get what you're expressing. So it's like a two-way learning process. And the second thing is how I hold the space. I think one thing is very important, as I said at the beginning, because of the play that I chose. I mean, they have to tell their story, and this play resonates with their story, and they can tell their story through the play. I think that's another thing that's very important. No matter whether you are using digital format or whether you are doing it physically in a theater, if you don't have a story to tell, then maybe you can forget about it. I think that's one very important motivation for the students, and for me as well, working with them. I like a facilitator, helping them to share the story through the play, and hopefully through digital medium, it can be told more widely, or
And I'm sure that, like, in their determination to go on, and this is something else that's really of some interest, they're looking to you as a teacher, right? They look to us as teachers. I remember my students looking at me when we were announcing lockdown, saying, "What next?" And just tell me, what was the experience of not knowing? Sorry, that's my home in the background. I think you can hear it.
No problem. I'm like this rehearsing with them.
Okay, fine.
I'm very used to it.
That's my 2-year-old who's just woken up. So just this idea of what happens when you, as their teacher, as their mentor, as their guide, you don't have answers anymore. I'm sure you must have had a number of situations where you just didn't have an answer to the questions that needed answering. Can you just share that story, and what do you think, how do you think you had to change as a teacher and as a pedagogue to suddenly be somebody who doesn't have answers? And what was your response then, and what did you do in that situation? Can you describe that for us a bit?
First of all, I didn't plan to be a teacher. I have to say, I believe many of you in this room are more experienced teacher than me. I just joined the school for 3 years. I didn't plan to be a teacher. But these 3 years has been very, very challenging, especially, in terms of what happened in Hong Kong. And I realized that when they asked me questions, they might not necessarily looking for an answer. They just need a ear to listen, to listen to them. As I said, they have a lot of things that they want to share. Lots of emotions, of course, lots of anger, of course. And I learned to like walk with them more instead of delivering knowledge and skills, if that makes sense. I know that's the primary responsibility of a teacher, of course, transferring knowledge and skills. But during this year, especially, you know, encountering these disruptions, I learned that walking with them, listening to them, laughing with them, you know, crying with them is the most important thing that as a teacher can do, if that makes sense.
That does. That does. It makes a lot of sense. In fact, I think that was somebody's description of pedagogy is the person that is the person who walked the child to school for their learning, and the idea of the pedagogue being that. That was from Felipe's talk. So it's really nice to sort of hear you say it, to be able to walk with them was beautiful. What about the fact that you have to? I mean, it's clear that they're working towards a whole other level of resilience. And I just don't know, I mean, have you thought about like the purpose of a theater school and the purpose, two questions actually, and then let's open it up after this to everyone. And then I've got a question from Gaurav over here. So have you thought about the purpose of a drama school and a drama department in such times? And what have your thoughts been on that? And the second one is more to do with the fact that, you know, somewhere when we want to take our students on a journey, we're trying to plan. And our planning is a function of time. It's a function of planning for the future. But over here, the future is denied. I mean, tomorrow you are in restricted access. Day after tomorrow, you might be open. Day after tomorrow, you might have to close down again. So how are you working with that ongoing, consistent disruption is the second question.
I think for the second question, does Indian culture has this saying that living in the moment? Like in Chinese culture, we have that, like when you're thinking about Buddhism or mindfulness, and we always talk about living in the moment, and that helps us a lot. And also because we teach, as I said, they learn Tai Chi since year 1. And they also learn Kung Fu, martial arts. I think some of these traditional wisdom in Chinese culture helps in terms of planning for the future, because we can't plan.
So that helps the students, that helps the faculty, but as an institute, but that's a very personal thing. How does that personal thing manifest at an institutional level? So
we as an institutional level, of course, it helps us not to get angry and pissed off when the academy is closed again. Come on, you know, that's not going to help the situation. Of course, we have emotion, of course, but what I want to say is that we prepare. Say, for example, since August, early August, when we already planned for the next academic year, which is going to start in early October. So we have 2 months' time to change all the curriculum. I mean, how we teach them. We just think that the pandemic is going to continue until we don't know when. And so we plan the curriculum, how we're going to teach in response, thinking that the pandemic is going to continue. So we expect that we are prepared that we have to continue to do online teaching. And in whatever ways when circumstances arise or allowed, then we will do practice, of course, immediately, and these two compensate, hopefully, compensate each other. But if the pandemic really goes on, then we have to also get the students be prepared that this is something that exists. We have to deal with it, and we are working with you, and then if we cannot do school performance anymore, then we might try online. We might try other means. We do a radio play. We do whatever creative projects that we can do in a lockdown situation. Yeah, I think the planning of planning has to change.
The planning, yeah, the planning of planning. I get that. The way we approach planning itself.
How we understand planning has to change in a way, because that's the pandemic that we are facing, and we don't know how it's going to go. And it also relates to the purpose of a drama school, your first question.
Yeah, exactly.
Of course, students ask me why do we still need to learn drama? Why am I learning theater? Why don't I go do cleaning job and or become a driver, do delivery, all those money making jobs, when you think about drama, when it started as an offering, in the ancient Greek time, it is one very important thing for me. It is not only about the ritual and the offering, but it's also a symbol of citizenship that the ancient Greek people shared in festivals. When they have theater together, they see performance. That's an ownership of citizenship they share together. And for me, that's very important thing in terms of theater or drama. And so once there are things that will not change, even if we have to do it online or we have to be in this lockdown situation for another couple of months. Is the essence of drama. It won't change. It's the platform or the stage changed. It's about storytelling. It's about sharing human condition. It's about sharing human condition during lockdown period as well. Why we exclude that? That's a human condition. Very, very important human condition that we are all in. So yes, I think the purpose, I won't say that this pandemic or, if we have to start exploring, I'm not saying migrating, okay? I didn't think, I don't think we have to, okay, everybody now do online theater, forget about physical theater. No, of course not. This is another stage, another platform, another theater for us to explore. There are still a long way to go. This kind of art form, and the purpose of a drama school is for me is for the students to encounter human condition through performance, through the plays, and through working together.
Thank you. I think that's a really great point on which to open it up to the floor. Gaurav, you had a question. I'll read it out, but if you feel like articulating it also, and do feel free to just get off mic if anybody wants to ask a question or have a response. We'd be very happy to that. But we'll start with Gaurav and go to Roshan, and then everyone just feel free to participate. Gaurav, thank you for sharing your experience. I was wondering, as an educator, what about evaluation, evaluating the progress? Did it matter in these conditions, whether you want to give a student an A or a B or a pass or a fail? Online performances are usually recorded, performed once, whereas live shows are performed multiple times. So yeah, there is that fact, right? I would watch a live performance 3 nights in a row and watch how my student would take the notes between performances. So how has evaluation worked for you in this time? And then the second one was more of an observation. Yeah, Roshan has an observation, so everyone can read that. Yeah.
Okay. So I only get the chance to read the questions now. To
That's
answer
okay.
the first question about evaluation, I did evaluation just like they did school performance at school in the theater. So I evaluate them in terms of their rehearsal, in terms of how they explore the characters, character development, and also on their performance as well. So everything is the same in terms of evaluation, and I did give them grades from A to B, not C. Basically, from A to B because the whole team was so devoted. Yeah. So in terms of evaluation, for me, it's the same. And so what else?
Are you initiating a new batch who hasn't done theater? Are you taking a new batch in?
New batch? You mean in
a
the next
brand new?
Yeah. We finished student recruitment, and we are going to have a new batch of students coming in October. Because the last semester was delayed, so we only finished last academic year at the end of August. So September is our summer holiday, kind of, but we cannot have holiday because we have to plan. So in October we have new student coming in. Yeah.
So I mean, coming back to what Gio and Amy was speaking about last week, but how does one initiate? Because we are about to do that as well. A new batch starting digitally and online, not in the classroom. You're starting your new batch digitally and online, correct?
Yes.
So what are you going to do and what are you not going to do? Because there's an absence of ensemble learning. What is your thought about that?
Okay. I see. So basically, we will start with theory, as many of you can imagine. So we will start, I shouldn't say it this way. We start with building the community. We start with building them together in a situation like this, because they cannot meet together, they cannot like really physically be together. But of course, after class, they are going to have drinks, I believe. I don't think they will stay home. But this sense of community, this sense of togetherness is very important to start with.
So in Hong Kong, they can meet in person, socially.
Yes. Okay. If you go to a restaurant, only 2 person. But if you go out on the streets, no, only 2 person. Yeah. Okay. And sometimes you have to keep a social distance for 1.5 meter. Yeah. And but I know that they go to parks, open space, yeah, where they are not.
So they have chances to hang out with each other.
Yes.
Okay. I had 2 questions. One is in the story where you said that they rehearsed in their spaces because they rehearsed in their own spaces, so that the performance of the play for pornography was created in rehearsal next to that toilet, next to that, with the sheet and all. But then for the performance evening, they divorced themselves from that space and they went to another space, their friend's space. But wasn't there something about the relationship and the discoveries they made in their own spaces in rehearsal that got lost by one student going to somebody else's house?
I see what I mean. That's a good question. Let me think if there are any laws. Some of them, yes. But for those who have to go to their friend's home, after we rehearse at their own home, and then they will take time to go to their friend's home, and then they rehearse it there on their own and try out what we did in their own home. It's very complicated. And then they come back next time because, their friend's place is not convenient to do rehearsal, every time. And so they did it, back and forth, and then they would tell me, Janice, it's not working, they don't have that bed there, and their lighting is different and blah blah. So it's quite a complicated.
So you were rehearsing with an idea of where they would perform on the final day.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
cool. And I think I have one more question only, but it's 5 and we do have 10-15 minutes to chat. So there's a great silence from the room today. But the material, have you been familiar with any material that is being self-generated by the students during this time, or between, say, last year's July, during the civil unrest and all this time? What have their creative responses looked like, or how has all of that sort of? You spoke about it with respect to pornography. You saw that there was resonance with the characters in the play. But what can you go a little bit more into that idea of resonance? What has the disruption and the ongoing disruption done to the material, the creative material that is coming out of your students?
Well, some of them write plays. They wrote plays on their own, and then they rehearse on their own without letting us know. And then they do play. They did. I overheard that they did some play reading online, share with their friends, and yeah, I know I knew they have done it, but I don't know where they did it, and they would never let me know.
Really, may I ask why not? Is it like subversive from authority, like hiding from authority, or?
Do you know Belarus Free Theater?
Yeah, yes, we know the Belarus Free Theater. I think.
You know how they did theater before they went to UK?
Yeah.
But yeah. So it's kind of like protection, and yeah. But so it's something that's shared among them friends. In terms of material, of course, they will find plays or readings or books that resonate with their thinking during that time. Sometimes they will read it loud in the lobby of the school when the school was opened, and yeah, crazy. But yeah, but they cannot do it anymore, I have to say, yeah, because of the recent law. Yeah, before this talk, I had a conversation with Shahan that I might not be able to answer to some of the questions that you ask. Yeah, so I hope you guys understand. Yeah.
This is the criminalization of subversion against Chinese government terrorism, that law, the national security law. Is what Janice is referring to. It's quite draconian. And it's interesting that we work online with slum. Are there any concerns about the industry of preparing students? Okay, you know what, Mercy, can I ask you to just, Chetna and then Mercy, can I ask you to go off mic and just ask Janice the question in public? So
Sorry.
Chetna? Yeah.
Hello. I was just wondering about, I've been having thoughts about kind of ethics, just my moral questioning about where we're sending the industry that we're preparing students for now that it's vastly changed.
Mercy, a bit louder.
Oh, sorry. Is this any better?
Yes, thank you.
I was just wondering about kind of the landscape that we're sending students into. For us, certainly it's changing and has changed. Perhaps some of the normal destination routes may not be the same on graduating in 3 years' time. So I'm just wondering kind of what considerations are being made in terms of the new landscape that students might encounter in 3 or 4 years' time. At least certainly for us in the UK, there is a concern about theatres staying kind of producing the work that they're able to produce, which is obviously a big employer for many of the actors coming through. I just wondered.
So in the UK, there's the industry and the landscape of the industry is changing.
Yeah.
Janice, what have the conversations been like amongst your faculty in terms of preparing them for a career in the theatre industry in Hong Kong, when the theatre industry is in question for the near and medium future?
When you say landscape, can you explain a little bit?
Oh, sorry.
No,
I think I'm referring to kind of the usual mediums that some of the actors kind of would go towards. So whether that's television or film and theatre. So for example, if they're going to television at the moment anyway, this idea of social distancing, it might affect the type of work that's being made or how it's being made. So I'm thinking, how are we preparing students for that? In terms of theatre, if we're thinking again about socially distant work or perhaps more smaller scale work, how are we incorporating that training for students? And similarly with film, similar methods and things, you know, things like radio may not be affected, but that's an alley of work that the students kind of often go into. So I'm just curious about the different, how we prepare the students for this changing industry.
Okay, understand. Thank you, Mercy. Let me think. I have to say, not many theatre practitioners are doing digital or online performance at the moment. Not many. There are some. Some of my faculty members did it as well. But it seems, we have a couple of conversation or talks in Hong Kong that we talk about that. And many theatre practitioners are becoming more open to this possibility to perform or create projects or performances online. But when we say online, there are different forms that you can do. And for our students, there are more and more students who are doing television. Not many into movies, but more into television because there are more online television channels coming up. Yeah, and also for playwriting students as well. So they started to write plays for radios, and radio play is not as popular as those in UK. The BBC radio plays are like really huge, but in Hong Kong it's not as huge as those in UK. But I would say television is becoming very popular, and also the independent scene is very vibrant here. Yeah, many not only theatre practitioners, but our students, like our graduates, they work with film, TV students, and or even visual art students to create projects with independent funding. Yeah, and then they try to release them or broadcast them online. There are a lot of online platform for them to do it, to share their independent work. I think that is one of the most vibrant and important theatre scene in Hong Kong. When I say theatre, in a broad sense.
So on that note, I think I'm just going to let you guys all know that thank you so much for these answers. Thank you for sharing this perspective. It was really important to me to hear about these kind of conditions as well, because they're just completely different from a lot of the conditions that we're used to. The story of student resilience has been phenomenal, and the stresses and everything you've been through has just been phenomenal. I mean, not phenomenal, but it's food for thought, as Hetal said. I will leave it with that and let you guys all know that next week we have Sarah Machette, who's just taken over as the head of the department in the University of Cape Town, and the first thing she had to deal with was the pandemic. But in a conversation with her, it was really interesting to see that there has been consistent disruptions in the experience of South Africa. As she said that, you know, fees must go and roads must go, roads being Cecil Rhodes and the whole colonial legacy that he had. And in that journey, and then the pandemic right now, she's found both it's been very interesting, and I look forward to sharing her conversation with you next week. But we're here, the room is open. If any of you would like to get off mic and have a chat, it's great. I'll shut the room in another 5 or 7 minutes. But thank you so much again, Janice, and let's keep in touch, especially about the outreach bit, because there is many things that there are many organizations here, and I'm sure that if they now know that they are talking to the person who builds partnerships at HKAPA, please note Janice Poon is the person to speak to. Great. did anyone want to see, did anyone want to get that recording to be able to see it in person? I can ask, because seeing the recording on Zoom was a little challenging. So if anyone wants that recording, we can ask Janice if she would be willing to put it in a Dropbox for us or something.
Yeah, just don't spread it.
No, yes.
Don't put me in danger.
Of course not.
I really hate it.
Great. And a special shout out to people coming in from the US. I know that it is very early in the morning there and in Eastern, like the time zones on the other side of the Atlantic. So thank you for waking up and doing this. It's great. Wonderful. Okay.
Thank you.
So next week is Sarah Machette, and then the week after next we've got that's Pedagogy in the Time of Multiple Disruptions Part 2. And then the week after that, we have Nicole Stinson from HKAPA in Australia and Aidan Conrad from the Institute of Arts Barcelona. They will be taking the chairs, and they're going to be talking about like elevating the performer during times of COVID and really speaking about all the celebration sides of this act of working in this mediated space. So that's part of it. And then my last talk that I have is Faye Simpson, who has created the lucid body technique in the US, an amazingly wonderful, generous, open soul. And she will be in the chair speaking to Sita Mani, who spoke a few weeks ago. And please do come for those because, and Faye's talk will be at same Thursday, but it'll be at 5 p.m. India time. So 1 hour, whatever time it is for you, it will start 1 hour later, 2 Thursdays from now. And then after that, we look forward to Amy Russell of Embodied Poetics taking over and giving us new conversations and new food for thought. Amy, can I talk about the subtitle of your curation, or do you want to speak of that for a second, or shall I go for it? Okay, so she's talking about responsible practice and responsible theater, but not responsible spelled the way you hear the word, but response-able, because I think somewhere that is what is happening right now. By the way, I shared that with somebody yesterday, and they totally just like, it chimed like a bell in their head, so it's going to work. So Unrehearsed Futures, responsible, curated by Amy Russell. We'll come up with all the words later. Thank you so much, everyone. Please, if anyone wants to talk to Janice directly or anybody in the room directly, please do. I'm going to shut up now. Otherwise, thank you and goodbye. And I'm hanging out, and you can hang out.
I just wondered, Janice, hi, I'm Dominic, I'm calling from Australia.
Hello.
How are you?
Good.
Did you manage to have a stage manager work with you on your Zoom production?
The student did it.
The actors?
Yes.
So they managed to do it themselves?
Yes. I have 2 directing students. One is year 1. 1 year 1 and 1 year 3. Yeah, as my assistant. Yeah, and then after like 2 weeks rehearsal, and then the year 1 student get 2 of his classmates to help. So 3 year 1 and 1 year 3 students. Yeah. And we did everything. Yeah. So they do lighting, they do recording, and all the technical thing. Yeah. No stage manager.
Did you have someone looking after sound?
No. It's funny. I understand, because in our academy, the school who's responsible for all the technology, stage design and stage management is another school. Yeah. And so basically, during the time when we rehearse this online theater, for them it's a school project, that is School of Drama's project. They don't have anything to do with it. And so the teachers don't allow their students to work with us. I shouldn't say it. It's still recording. Come on, you should stop the recording, okay? Come on.